The dark secrets of what really happened to the Titanic in 1912 are set to remain hidden for generations to come, following the media circus surrounding the Titan Submersible's ill-fated journey to investigate the famous Titanic wreckage. Authorities confirmed on Friday that they found a debris field near the wreckage, which they claim means the submersible suffered a catastrophic implosion, killing all 5 people on board. This is what they are telling us to believe.
The search for a missing submersible in the North Atlantic Ocean has ended in the worst-case scenario. The U.S. Coast Guard said last hour that search vehicles found debris from the Titan on the ocean floor near the wreck of the Titanic, and the 5 people that were on board are presumed dead.
This morning, an ROV, or remote-operated vehicle, from the vessel Horizon Arctic discovered the tail cone of the Titan Submersible approximately 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic on the seafloor.
But according to those in the know, this wasn't an implosion at all, but an explosion, and the whole episode was carefully planned to generate maximum media attention and capture the attention of the world. Before we dive in, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join the People's Voice Locals community for exclusive and uncensored content. The link is below this video. Despite the best efforts of the global banking elites, they've been unable to completely suppress the truth about what really happened to the supposedly unsinkable Titanic. To explain what the media circus was about in 2023, we need to explain what really happened in 1912. Millionaire banker JP Morgan planned the Titanic disaster to kill off rival millionaires Jacob Astor, Isidor Straus, and Benjamin Guggenheim. Morgan wanted to kill these influential millionaires because they opposed the creation of a privately owned Federal Reserve, which until that point had remained a controversial and unpopular concept that was widely rejected by the American people, who viewed it as a form of slavery to the elites. Unsurprisingly, for those who know their history, the Rothschild banking family were also involved in the conspiracy, arranging for the deaths of Strauss, Astor, and Guggenheim and other influential figures to clear the path to total financial domination. Conveniently for JP Morgan, he pulled out of the voyage at the very last minute, citing an illness, in much the same way that many of the most wealthy and influential figures conveniently avoided dying in the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. The sinking of the supposedly unsinkable Titanic confirmed JP Morgan and the Rothschilds at the very apex of the international banking cartel, where they remain to this day, operating from the shadows and profiting off the slavery of the masses, who think living under a central banking system is a normal state of affairs. So how did the Titanic really sink? After this quick break, we'll explain what really happened in 1912, and how we know the elite have been pulling the wool over our eyes for well over 100 years, and why they are so desperate to continue doing so. But first, an important word from our sponsor. The globalist elite have admitted that they want to bankrupt us, and now they're making their move. The government have been given permission to print as much money as they want. The last time they did that, inflation went up 9%. The Biden regime claims that this has saved America's economy, but all they did is ensure the US dollar gets devalued even further. With the BRICS nations working together to create a new global reserve currency, the threats to the US dollar are just getting stronger. The only ones who aren't afraid are those who invested in gold with Noble Gold Investments. Gold is the one asset that has proven to withstand recession, inflation, and just about all economic threats. Noble Gold Investments is here to help if you want to invest in gold. Click the link below this video to secure your wealth now and get a 24-karat quarter-of-an-ounce gold standard coin for free. NobleGoldInvestments.com is the only gold company I trust. We've all become familiar with the phrase jet fuel can't melt steel beams, yet nobody is mentioning the obvious. Icebergs cannot cut through hardened steel hulls. And if you read through the primary sources from Titanic survivors, you'll notice a disturbing trend. The survivors don't mention an iceberg, but they do mention an incredible explosion that rocked the ship before it sank. According to experts, the Titanic was an inside job. And much like the World Trade Center buildings on 9/11, the structure was detonated by carefully placed explosives on the inside. Let's fast forward to 2023, a period in history when people are claiming the Titanic is cursed, and anybody who dares to investigate the famous wreckage is doomed to disaster. But the truth is less esoteric than that. There is no curse. The simple fact is, the globalist banking elite are desperate to keep the Titanic crime scene off limits forever. Because if we, the people, finally understand what happened to the Titanic in 1912 and the role it played in the creation of the Federal Reserve, we would rise up and overthrow the tyrants who are enslaving us. This is where the 2023 submersible inside job comes in. Unfortunately for the Morgans and Rothschilds and other international bankers who are profiting off the central banking system, the Titanic crime scene currently lies in international waters. This means unregulated salvage operations can proceed on the Titanic. The elite are terrified that we'll find out that the hull buckling in by an iceberg was actually buckling out by an explosive. This fact can't be hidden forever, and the media is starting to tease limited disclosures to the public. To close this loophole, and to keep the crime scene undercover, the globalists are clamping down on visitation so that no unauthorized persons can explore the Titanic wreckage without a permit. So the fact that Stockton Rush and OceanGate was able to offer trips to the Titanic wreckage at all is more than a little suspect. The fact it was able to do it with an uncertified experimental submarine controlled by a wireless game controller does not make any sense. It's only when you consider the fact that OceanGate has direct links to the Rothschilds, including a Rothschild on the board of the company, that the pieces of the puzzle start to come together. There are no coincidences. The mainstream media was involved in the criminal cover-up of the crime in 1912 in order to provide cover for the great deception that was the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. And the mainstream media is also involved in covering up the Titan Submersible inside job in 2023. Any well-laid assassination will have a fall guy to draw the attention of the public away from the real culprits. And the mainstream media has been instructed to portray Stockton Rush as the fall guy by convincing the world that the submersible was a ticking time bomb, held together by bits of string and superglue. With the attention of the public on all the wrong details, the globalist elite have swindled the masses all over again. And here's the kicker. The enormous amount of public interest generated by the wall-to-wall media coverage of the event will ensure that the Titanic wreckage will become heavily regulated again, and we'll never be allowed to explore the crime scene ourselves and discover what really happened and the role it played in our financial slavery. And let's face it, the elites love rubbing our faces in it. This was a plan in the works for years. The Simpsons has an incredible strike rate when it comes to predicting events perpetrated by the elite, and the Titanic Submersible disaster is no different. They even knew there was going to be a father and son involved.
Today I'm filled with joy, searching for treasure with my long-lost son. Uma, look! The treasure of Piso Mojado! No! What do I do? Ah! Ah! Oh. Ah! Daddy! Daddy!
Given that we know the globalist elite like to mock us, is this another example of predictive programming? Considering the astronomical odds of life imitating art in this way, and given the fact that we know the global elite like to mock us, an expression immediately comes to mind. Revelation of the method. Originating from ancient Rosicrucian texts, this concept refers to the process of exposing people to dark realities, often in a veiled and underhanded manner, to gain implied acceptance from the masses. Once these hidden truths are quietly and deceitfully revealed to the public, and met with general apathy and indifference, they become normalized and embedded in society's collective unconscious. Take, for example, the huge number of references to 9/11 in films, TV shows, and video games, years before the attacks actually happened. It's not just The Simpsons. Countless Hollywood films have worked references to future events into their productions. Check out Back to the Future for an example if you are interested in learning more. Some occultists compare this normalization process to the alchemical great work, where the world is transmuted according to the will of the occult elite. In his book Secret Societies and Psychological Warfare, Michael Hoffman explained why the elite like to rub our faces in it. The alchemical principle of the revelation of the method has as its chief component a clown-like grinning mockery of the victims as a show of power and macabre arrogance. When this is performed in a veiled manner accompanied by certain occult signs and symbolic words and elicits no meaningful response of opposition or resistance from the targets, it is one of the most efficacious techniques of psychological warfare and mind rape. Since the advent of mass media, the revelation of the method has become increasingly obvious. While in the past the elite operated in complete secrecy, it now seeks to operate in plain sight. Earlier this year, the East Palestine train derailment and subsequent cover-up fitted perfectly into the revelation of the method concept. And now we're expected to believe that train derailments are normal. The Titanic Submersible disaster is another perfect example of the concept. We are now expected to accept that the Titanic crime scene is a no-go zone that must be left well alone. The original gangsters who blew up the Titanic and who are still profiting from the crime in the form of the Federal Reserve are still covering up the scene of one of the greatest crimes against humanity in history. Here at The People's Voice, we are determined to keep bringing you the news the mainstream media and the globalist elite want to keep hidden. As long as people remain unaware and uninformed about important issues, the globalist elite will continue chipping away at the freedoms we enjoy. If you want to support our work, please subscribe to the channel and feel free to join the People's Voice Locals community to help us expose the dark agenda of the global elite. The link is in the description box below this video. And remember, we are all in this together.